It was December 31st, 2024, and the city was alive with excitement. Streets were packed with people laughing, music was booming from open windows, and colorful lights blinked like a heartbeat across the skyline. Everyone was ready to welcome the new year, except for one group of friends who had chosen to avoid the crowds. Anna, Jake, Mia, and Ryan decided to stay in their cozy apartment for a quiet New Year's Eve celebration. As the night grew colder, the apartment felt strangely silent despite the distant hum of fireworks outside. The four friends sat in the living room, eating snacks and joking about their resolutions. On the TV, the news droned in the background, reporting cheerful stories of New Year's preparations worldwide. But then, a more somber story appeared, a segment about mysterious disappearances that had been happening every New Year's Eve for the past 5 years. The anchor spoke in a calm voice, but her words were chilling. Authorities have no leads in the strange vanishings reported every December 31st. Witnesses claim to hear strange knocks or see shadows before their loved ones disappear. Police advise caution and suggest avoiding strangers or unusual activities tonight. Anna turned to Jake with a nervous laugh. Creepy, huh? Perfect timing for some horror vibes. Jake shrugged, but Mia shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I hate these stories. They always feel too real. Ryan waved his hand dismissively. It's just urban legends. People love making up stuff to scare themselves. The group tried to laugh it off, but a tension lingered in the air. Then, at that very moment, the sound of paper sliding under the doors caught their attention. Everyone turned toward the entrance, where a small flyer lay on the ground. Jake got up, picked it up, and read it aloud. New Year's survival event. Protect yourself before midnight. Lock your doors. Stay inside. Trust no one. Anna chuckled nervously. Wow, someone's really getting into the spirit of scaring people tonight. But Jake frowned, looking at the cheaply printed flyer again. There was no company logo, no sender, just those unsettling words. Throw it away, Mia said sharply. It's probably just a prank. Jake crumpled the paper and tossed it into the trash, but the unease didn't leave. Anna got up to turn on more lights, but even the brightness didn't seem to help. It felt as if something outside was watching them, just waiting for the right moment. As they sat back down, another knock came at the door. This one was louder, more deliberate. They froze. Who would be knocking this late? Anna whispered. Ryan, ever the skeptic, stood up confidently. Probably just a neighbor. Relax. But as he opened the door, there was no one there. The hallway was empty, dark, and eerily quiet. A gust of cold air swept inside, making Mia shiver. Ryan laughed awkwardly. See? Nothing to worry about. He closed the door, but Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was near. For a moment, everything was still, but in the corner of the room, Anna's phone vibrated. She picked it up and stared at the screen, her heart skipping a beat. The screen displayed a countdown. 11:45 p.m. ticking down toward midnight. She glanced at her friends. Did anyone send me this? It's a countdown timer. Jake raised an eyebrow. For what? Anna couldn't answer, but a sense of dread settled in her chest. Whatever the timer was counting down to, she was certain it wasn't a New Year's celebration. The air felt heavier now. Outside, the city celebrated. But within the apartment, the four friends unknowingly prepared to face the darkest night of their lives. The mood in the apartment grew heavier as the clock edged closer to midnight. The laughter and easy banter from earlier had been replaced by nervous glances and uneasy silence. Anna's phone timer continued to tick down, its numbers glowing ominously in the dimly lit room. She placed it face down on the coffee table, but the faint sound of its ticking still seemed to echo in her ears. Jake, trying to shake off the tension, stood and stretched. We're letting this creepy stuff ruin our night. Let's put on some music and forget about it. He grabbed the remote, but as he aimed it at the TV, the power flickered. The lights dimmed for a brief second before coming back on. Great, Mia muttered. That's exactly what we need, a power outage to top everything off. Before anyone could reply, Anna's phone vibrated again. She reluctantly picked it up, expecting another strange message or update to the countdown. Instead, it was a text from an unknown number. Do not open the door again. Stay together. You are not alone. Her stomach dropped as she stared at the words. She showed the screen to Jake, who read it aloud. Mia gasped, and even Ryan, usually the calmest of the group, frowned deeply. That's messed up, Ryan said. Who sent that? No idea, Anna whispered. But it's not funny. Jake shrugged. It's probably someone messing with us, could be a scammer or something. But even as he said it, his voice wavered. The room felt colder now, the kind of cold that settled into your bones. Mia pulled a blanket tighter around her shoulders. I don't like this. Can we just lock the doors and wait until morning? Ryan rolled his eyes but reluctantly agreed. Fine, but nothing's going to happen. It's all just some random prank. He walked to the front door, checking the locks, then moved to the windows, making sure they were secure. As he was finishing, there was another knock at the door. This time, it was softer, almost hesitant, like whoever was on the other side was testing their resolve. "Don't answer it," Anna said immediately. Ryan hesitated, his hand hovering near the doorknob. "What if it's someone who actually needs help?" "Don't," Mia pleaded. Reluctantly, Ryan stepped back. The knock came again, louder this time, then stopped altogether. For a moment, the only sound was the faint ticking of Anna's phone. Then a low creaking noise echoed through the apartment. Jake turned toward the hallway that led to the bedrooms. Did anyone leave a door open back there?" "No," Mia said quickly. The group huddled together, peering into the dark hallway. The creaking stopped, replaced by silence so complete it made their ears ring. Ryan grabbed a flashlight from a drawer and shone it into the corridor. "See? Nothing," he said, though his voice was tight. As the flashlight beam passed over the cracked bathroom door, something moved, just for a split second, like a shadow slipping out of view. "Wait," Anna whispered. "Did you see that?" "See what?" Ryan said, trying to sound casual, but his hand trembled slightly. Anna pointed. "There, in the bathroom, something moved." Jake grabbed a kitchen knife, his face pale. "Stay here. I'll check it out." "No!" Mia grabbed his arm. "Let's just stay together, please." But Jake shook her off and took slow steps toward the bathroom, his flashlight leading the way. He pushed the door open, revealing an empty room. He scanned every corner, but found nothing. "It's fine," he said. But as he turned back, the bathroom mirror caught his eye. The reflection was wrong. It showed him standing there, but behind him was a figure, a tall, dark silhouette with no face, just an empty void, where its features should have been. Jake spun around, but the hallway was empty. His heart pounded as he stumbled back to the group. I think I saw something," he stammered. "What do you mean, something?" Ryan demanded. Before Jake could answer, Anna's phone buzzed again. She picked it up with shaking hands and read the new message aloud. "It's already inside. Midnight is coming." The friends stared at each other, fear written across their face. Somewhere in the apartment, a floorboard creaked and the faint sound of whispering began to fill the room. The whispers grew louder, though no one could understand the words. It was like the walls themselves were murmuring secrets they weren't meant to hear. The friends huddled closer, their breaths shallow and hearts racing. Jake gripped the kitchen knife tightly, his knuckles white. "Where's it coming from?" Mia whispered, her voice trembling. "It's everywhere," Anna said, her eyes darting around the room. Ryan grabbed the flashlight and started shining it around the apartment. The light flickered as if the batteries were dying, though they had been fresh earlier. "We need to get out of here," he said. "This isn't normal." Mia shook her head. "We can't leave. What if it's waiting outside?" "Better than waiting for it to come to us," Ryan argued. But his voice lacked conviction. Before anyone could decide, the TV turned on by itself. Static filled the screen, hissing loudly. Then, amidst the white noise, an image began to form. A grainy video of the apartment hallway. "That's..." Anna's voice trailed off as they all stared at the screen. It was a live feed of their building. The camera panned slowly, showing each apartment door, lingering on there before moving on. "How is that even possible?" Jake said, his voice shaking. The feed froze for a moment, then zoomed in on their door. The knocking sound came again, louder this time. The camera feed flickered and the screen went black, leaving the room in darkness. Mia screamed as the power cut out completely. The apartment plunged into silence, save for the ticking of Anna's phone. Jake's flashlight flickered weakly, casting long, distorted shadows on the walls. "Everyone stay together, sir," Anna said, her voice barely audible over her pounding heart. Ryan aimed the flashlight in toward the front door. The locks they had checked earlier were now undone, the chain dangling uselessly. "I locked that," Ryan said, his voice barely a whisper. "Did you?" a low, distorted voice said from the darkness. The friends froze. It wasn't any of their voices, it wasn't even human. "Who's there?" Jake shouted, waving the flashlight wildly. The voice didn't respond, but the whispering returned, louder and closer. Shadows moved along the walls, darting out of sight whenever the flashlight beam landed on them. Then came the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, and impossibly loud in the silence. They echoed from the hallway leading to the bedrooms. "Jake, what's happening?" Mia cried. Jake didn't answer. He was staring into the hallway, his eyes wide. There's something there," he whispered. The group turned to look. At first, it seemed like a trick of the dim light, but then they saw it, a figure standing at the end of the hallway. Tall, dark, and faceless, it didn't move, but its presence filled the room with an unbearable sense of dread. Anna gasped, stepping back, but her phone buzzed again. She didn't want to look, but her trembling hands moved on their own. The message was simple. "Midnight is here. The clock struck 12. A deafening sound, like 1,000 voices screaming in unison, filled the apartment. The lights flickered one last time before going out completely. When the room plunged into darkness, Anna felt a hand grab her arm. She screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the overwhelming noise. The last thing she saw before the flashlight died was the faceless figure stepping closer, its shadow stretching across the room. One by one, the whispers turned into screams and then silence. When the power finally returned, the apartment was empty. The furniture was undisturbed, the snacks and drinks untouched. But the four friends were gone, leaving no trace of what had happened. On the TV, the countdown resumed for another celebration elsewhere, as if nothing had occurred. The cracked mirror in the bathroom reflected the faceless figure one last time before fading into darkness. Happy New Year 2025. The silence was deafening. The apartment, once filled with the laughter and life, now felt like a tomb. The faint hum of the city outside only emphasized the unnatural stillness within. Anna, Jake, Mia, and Ryan were gone, vanished without a trace. Yet their final moments hung heavy in the air. Somewhere in the building, a clock chimed midnight, each echoing note reverberating through the walls like a funeral bell. The air in the apartment grew colder, frost forming along the edges of the windows and creeping across the floor. In the hallway, the front door slowly creaked open, though no one had touched it. Beyond the threshold was not the apartment building's familiar corridor, but an endless, shadowy void. From within it, faint footsteps approached, slow and deliberate. The TV flickered back on, showing the same live feed of the building. But now, the camera panned to other apartments, revealing scenes of other celebrations. Families and friends laughed and cheered, completely unaware of the horrors unfolding just a few doors away. Suddenly, the screen froze on an image of the faceless figure standing outside another apartment door. The figure tilted its head as though listening to something before raising a pale, shadowed hand to knock. The knocking echoed, loud and rhythmic, but it didn't come from the TV. It came from within the apartment. The next morning, January 1st, 2025, the building's residents woke to a grim scene. 4 police cars lined the street, their lights flashing silently in the pale dawn. Inside the apartment where Anna, Jake, Mia, and Ryan had celebrated New Year's Eve, officers found no signs of struggle, only a faint, icy chill that refused to dissipate. On the coffee table sat Anna's phone, its screen cracked and black, except for one haunting message glowing faintly beneath the spiderweb of fractures. See you next year. The case was closed as another inexplicable disappearance. The news reported it as an unsolved mystery, lumping it in with the previous year's vanishings. But those who had lived in the building knew the truth. The New Year's Night Stalker wasn't done. Midnight would come again, and with it, the shadow would return for another celebration. Happy New Year 2025.